United States Supreme Court today deciding it will not assess the admissions process at the Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, which until a couple years ago was just a merit-based admissions process. It made it the #1 high school in the entire country, according to U.S. News and World Report. But then the left-wing Fairfax County School Board decided that they would change the racial composition of the school and diminish the merit-based access. And they did. They did meddle with the racial composition of the school. And now the school is dropping in the rankings on that very same U.S. News and World Report assessment. And only 2 justices were willing to put their name on an opinion today, and it was a dissent saying that this case very much needed to be heard, and that, in fact, it sure looks like this is racist and should not be allowed and isn't allowed by the United States Constitution. For more on all of this, I want to bring in one of the women who made this entire case possible in the first place. That's Asra Nomani. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Network and the author of the book Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. She's also a co-founder of the Coalition for TJ. Asra, good to have you with us.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much, Vince. You have been with us from the beginning.
Well, thank you, Asra. Tell me, I mean, you have put up, I mean, it's a heck of a fight to be able to get a case like this in front of the United States Supreme Court even to begin with. I just want to first get your reaction to the court saying that they will not take up this case.
Well, my head is in my hands, and I'm running my fingers through my hair right now, just wiping my face and just wondering, okay, so this is what happens in life, you know? You see clearly justice, and you see clearly the path to justice, and the Supreme Court wasn't with us today. This is such blatant racism, as you know, Vince, as the audience knows. The Asian students at TJ and our Fairfax community were targeted because they dared to succeed. My son went there, and our family is emblematic of the pursuit of the American dream. So today, it's just Supreme Court watch that we have to get into then, because, you know, we knew that the 3 liberal justices that voted to allow race-based admissions in college, we knew we wouldn't get them, right? Well, then after that, you've got 6 conservative justices, and I went through the list, and basically, like you mentioned, Justice Samuel Alito, and Justice Clarence Thomas publicly dissented. So what that leaves us with, then you do the math, that brings you to 5 people. That leaves you 4 conservative justices, and they did not protect America today. I mean, I just want to go and dare to say that they showed intellectual cowardice. You know, they accepted that we cannot have race-based admissions in college, but they are allowing it in a sneaky way in our K-12 admissions program. And I don't know if they just didn't have the backbone to take on abortion and the Trump issues and all the rest that is going through the courts right now, and then also protect America's children. But for us as parents and as Americans, like, we're going to keep fighting. Like, this is a fight for America, and we're going to have to just keep finding more and more cases. And I'm sure Fairfax County will give them to us of this egregious racism. But thank goodness for Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, because they gave us a rallying cry to stand strong. They said that it's going to be a virus. They said it's going to be a virus that permeates America.
Yes. So here's they write. So basically, they're taking up the appeal that existed in the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit said, hey, this is fine. This is it might be racial discrimination, but it's not racial discrimination enough for us to get rid of it. Which led Justices Alito and Thomas to say this today in their dissent. They said the Fourth Circuit's reasoning is a virus that may spread if not promptly eliminated. In other words, this type of rationalization of racial discrimination has the potential to take over even more of our institutions across our country now, because the United States Supreme Court refused to take up this important issue as it arrived at their doorstep.
Exactly. And we all know it to be true. We know already from our own, quote, lived experience and from the, the anecdotes of cases also around the country that, people are being divided into racial groups,
Yeah.
affinity circles. Kids are being separated by privilege, so-called privilege, oppressor and oppressed. Matrix is a new reality for life in the United States of America.
Yes.
And so, I just think back on history. I thought that we were going to be the Brown versus Board of Education case that tore this down. Well, before Brown versus Board of Education, there were many cases that we had to lose in order to finally prevail against segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same way, I know we have parents that we are supporting in New York City, Boston,
Yes.
San Francisco, Philadelphia. And so we will continue the legal fight because we have to win in the courts. And we will find these, like the school board, they'll become more egregious and they'll become more racist.
And the key here for people to know is that the Supreme Court didn't actually issue a ruling on this subject. They just declined to hear it, which means another case could approach them that they do take. But boy, in terms of finding a case that has all of the necessary elements, this seems like the one. And here's one reason I say that. There are definitely racist policies in the United States that don't have the underlying evidence to show that they had racist intent. But we can all kind of smell it. Oh, this is racial meddling going on. At TJ High School, there were written documents demonstrating that the school board and county leaders had it out for TJ High School specifically because of the racial composition of the school. In fact, in the dissent today, they note that in June of 2020, TJ students received an email from their principal lamenting that the school, quote, did not reflect the racial composition across Fairfax County public schools. They go on. A member of the board wrote in an email she was, quote, angry and disappointed that TJ's admissions results at TJ's admissions result, and that she expected, quote, intentful action forthcoming. That board member also contacting Scott Braband, the superintendent of the Fairfax County Public Schools, demanding that the board and the public school system, quote, be explicit in how we are going to address the underrepresentation of Black and Hispanic students. So, Asra, this is a case where it's not a mystery what their motivations were. You're not wrongly you're not interpreting this and hoping you got it right. They outright said to one another in official documents that this was about changing the racial composition of once the greatest school in the country.
Yeah, and what they clearly documented in their own emails was that they reverse engineered the process so that they would get the racial balancing and racial demographics that they wanted. And you're right. I mean, this was such a slam dunk case, but we unfortunately had very flawed intellectual analysis that concluded that because some Asian students still make it, and because a lot of Asian students still make it, which the Fairfax County School Board again argued today, that means that the whole system can't be racist, which is just so antithetical to even the principle of injustice.
They have this very contorted logic, as you point out.
Yeah,
they say that, okay, under the new policy, remember, Asian American students were entering at about a 75% rate prior to the change. And when the change came in, now they're only admitting approximately 54% of the student body is now Asian American students because they are doing what they can to limit their access.
Right.
And they're saying, well, the percentage of Asian American students at the high school is still higher than the general population at all of the middle schools of Asian American students. So therefore, it's not racial discrimination. I was, well, wait a second. I mean, Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, they point out today, if you're an Asian American student applying to TJ, the end result is that you have less of a chance of getting in now than before the policy change. And that is because of your race, no other factor.
Yeah, and they point out the interesting analogy that if this was on a basketball team at a high school, you wouldn't be allowed to just get rid of the Black players, because the white parents said, oh, we want more white slots.
Yes.
It doesn't work like that. And so, who are these folks? The principal is Ann Bonitatabas. The school board member is Karen Corbett Sanders that you mentioned. the governor in charge was Ralph Northam. Like, I want to name names because these are people who have also been promoted with failure. They've gotten seats in the state legislature now. Like, this is impactful for the future of Virginia. And a mom, Stephanie Lundquist Aurora, said to me today, she didn't know what she was going to tell her sons, because their dad is from India, they're Asian. And I said, that I know with these kids too, like, they can see right from wrong. But, it sends such a wrong message to children, right? Like, children who work hard and try hard. There are kids now that are masking their names because they seem Asian. They're changing their names in admissions applications. It's a refusal of their own ancestral identity because somehow they've gotten the message in America that these school board members have sent that your Asian identity is actually a curse on you now.
And this is why, and Justice Clarence Thomas in particular has spent many years arguing against this because he sees it as the poison for which it is. That you need to conceal your race or you need to accentuate it as if your race is the thing that determines your future. And unfortunately, when these systems are distorted in this way, that does become the case, that your race determines your chance of success when these institutions are so corrupted.
Yeah, you're so right. And the system is the way to put it, the far left and the Democratic Party to talk about systemic racism. Well, this is systemic racism. It's against Asian families. And it's been a part of Virginia's history by the Southern Democrats. And that is what they have won today, is their massive resistance to any kind of equality under the law. And just like they lost in the 1950s, it was the Virginia Southern Democrats that lost back then. They are going to lose. Like, not in our case right now, but we will find more, and they will continue to break the law. I'm certain of it.
It's so wild. So you mentioned one of the conversations you have had. What are the conversations like among parents and would-be parents when it comes to TJ right now? It seems this has got to be a very hot issue among the community.
Oh, it's so hot. And, who are these parents? First, their parents who survived the Cultural Revolution. They've survived, coups and famines and corruption and ancestral homelands, and came to America, settled in Northern Virginia. And it's devastating because we really had hope in the highest court of the land. But, many parents are now not even having their kids apply for TJ because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They have sent the message loud and clear that our families are not welcome. And so children are choosing not to go there. They're staying at their base school. One mom, Jewish mom actually, because she knew that this discrimination is unacceptable to anybody, has her son going to a Catholic school instead of applying to TJ. I'm just, the one thing that I'm worried about, Vince, that troubles me always is what it does to, the morale of kids, what it does to their sense of hope for their own futures. They always want to talk about the fragility of the teenage mind right now. And it's as if these kids, minds don't matter because they are supposedly so privileged. But I hope, and what we say in all of our families is like we're trying to, encourage every kid that we can as they face these systemic problems now, like from not only K through 12 and high school, but the workplace, internships, access to jobs. It's medical school. It's happening everywhere. And, a lot of Indian families, for example, are wondering whether opportunities are better back in the home country because they're being shut out of jobs and graduate schools here. But I just hope that everybody will keep fighting, and I guess it's a long war, Vince, right? It's
yes.
a long war.
Well, look, the whole reason we wanted to talk to you is because you've been in a long fight. You've made it so public, and you've done so well to get it to this place alongside so many other great parents. And Asra, obviously, even this moment is an invitation for us to sustain the conversation because I do think it's headed in the right direction. A setback today as the court doesn't take up the case. But, man, I don't know if I've known a time in my life where more people have had their eyes open to the civil liberties threats that are all around us. And that's thanks in no small part to your work. So, Asra, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Vince. And that's such a great way to end. It's just because these parents raise their voices, we know about this discrimination, right? You're so right. And you have given voice to parents like Julia and Harry and Stephanie and Yuyan, and they are our community, and you're absolutely right. It's individuals overcoming their fears, speaking truth to power that makes our world a better place. I love it.
Definitely.
I love you.
Asra Nomani, thank you. We love you. Thank you very much. Good to have you on today, as always.